Next slide. So heart disease is the #1 killer, and it also causes extensive morbidity. We always say it's the #1 killer of women. It's also a major, extremely major cause of morbidity, as are numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. If we go down the list here, which is an abbreviated list, these diseases all convey some degree of mortality and perhaps even more the morbidity, which we're talking about in chronic debilitating conditions. Next slide, please. And this list is very long. If you think about fibroids, to breast cancer, to heart disease, to mental health, it's heartbreaking to think about the debilitating conditions that women live with and die from ultimately. Next slide, please. And the underlying problem to me is that women's health is very understudied. As Dr. Molly Carnes highlighted this morning, women's health tends to be undervalued. So, and that to me is a source of great grief. But treatments are still largely based on data in men. There are a few sex-specific treatment guidelines. Really, there are almost none. And in some cases, progress is slowing or being reversed. Next slide. For instance, from 1985 to 2010, gains in life expectancy occurred in fewer US counties for women than for men. And women do live longer, but they often live with the chronic debilitating conditions longer as a result. And life expectancy to be decreased in women is not the direction we want to go in. Next slide, please. In addition, another horrifying fact is that from 1993-94 to 2010, the risk of stroke declined for men, which is clearly very good news, but not for women. And why are we not making progress? Next slide, please. There's also a rising rate of chronic debilitating conditions in women, as has been shown previously with the DALYs, disability adjusted life years. I've never said it, I've only read it, so I'm not sure how it's pronounced. The sum of years of potential life loss due to premature mortality and the years of productive life due to disability. And this is rising across all ages and all causes. Next slide, please. From my own lab, we have seen that the impact of quality of life is profound. People with type 2 diabetes, even when it's completely uncomplicated and only detected in the laboratory, there is a loss in cardiovascular exercise tolerance. And the cardiovascular exercise tolerance is always lower in women than in men due to increased muscle mass in men. However, in women with diabetes, it's disproportionately reduced, even compared to men with diabetes. So there's an especial loss of function in people with type 2 diabetes, and why it's a 20% decrement, why you might say, well, that's not such a big deal. It's a big deal as you get older and your functional range narrows. A 20% decrement might mean the difference between being able to live at home and not being able to live at home and having to live in a facility. So loss of function is a very big deal, and it is conveyed by type 2 diabetes, even asymptomatic with no complications in relatively young premenopausal women. Next slide, please. The modulating considerations are many and include intersectionality, changes across the life course, the concept of sex versus gender constructs, and multimorbidity. I'll talk a little about each of these. It's very interesting. I once was a reverse site visitor for an NIH trial that was held at another university across the country. I won't name where. And it was reduction of cardiovascular risk in 450 men. And I said, well, why aren't women included in this proposed study? And the answer given to me was because they're so complicated. And I'm here to argue that that is not an acceptable, it was not an acceptable answer 20 years ago, and it's not an acceptable answer today. Women, are not unnecessarily complicated. What he meant was having a period makes it harder to do physiological studies, but you can work with that. That's not such an unbearable barrier. So we can't look at women's health and say there are all these issues, it's too complicated. We have to address these issues. Next slide, please. So intersectionality is high on this list. There is even less known about women of color than there are about Caucasian women. We need additional studies, and we need studies in all women, and women of color are even less studied. Women of color and older women have higher rates of chronic conditions than white women and younger women. There are a few health disparity focused studies relevant to diverse populations of women across the life course. Next slide, please. And when we look at this multidimensional framework, which has already been shown today, which comes from the NIH, it shows the health of women across the lifespan. And we have to consider sex, which are the biological differences between men and women, but we also have to consider gender, because socioeconomic status, environment, policies, participation of women in trials, which is a gendered construct because women may not participate for, reasons related to their, nobody being there to take them, other barriers we don't even know. We have to study both sex and gender. And I applaud, Janine Clayton and the Office of Research on Women's Health for bringing sex as a biological variable to the fore. But we have to study sex and gender, not just at one point in time, but across the life course, which is also critically important. Next slide, please. And the Canadian Institutes of Health Research produced this graphic, which is, more, depicts pictures of some of the sex and gender variables. And it helps me to think about, the picture of the genes, picture of, just differences between men and women. And again, as Molly Cards noted this morning, we're not talking about a binary in terms of gender. There are many, there's a range there and a spectrum, but we have to really think about this. Next slide. We also have to think about multimorbidity. Multimorbidity is a fact of life. When people have one chronic condition, they're very likely to have others. So we have to factor this in the thinking about morbidity. You may not be dealing with just one condition. So you consider sex, gender, intersectionality, and multimorbidity. And it is a complex picture, but we should be thinking about it in this way because it's not simple, but it's certainly interesting and it's critically important. Next slide, please. And go to the next slide. So it's a complex picture and so much remains unknown. We need to know much more in order to provide evidence-based prevention, which I love, from Dr. Nelson's talk this morning. Prevention is a great strategy. Treatment and cure also have to be thought about. So research is needed. It's a call to action for all of these diseases and conditions to reduce chronic debilitating conditions. There are compelling clinical questions. Nobody who studies these issues will run out of work in their lifetime. And the questions are amazing. Next slide, please. So what are possible solutions and pathways? We want to think about creating infrastructure for research on the health of women at NIH, a greater infrastructure or more encompassing infrastructure than there is today. It has been suggested that possibly a common fund for women's health be developed, that there be NIH-wide women's health initiatives, that the Office of Research of Women's Health should be a center, and I'm hearing more and more today, an institute with grant-making authority, and that perhaps the Office of Research on Women's Health should work with the National Academies of Sciences to define chronic diseases in women so that people know more the terms that they're talking about. The partnership with the national, professional, and lay communities is an idea that I've long espoused given my work at my Ludeman Family Center for Women's Health Research. It has been through working with the community, the Denver community in my case, but more broadly now, starting to be more nationally. And the community loves the science if we make it clear what we're talking about. So if we speak plain English and not scientific jargon, people love hearing about our science and what we're finding. It is about their health. So I suggest a national, community for NIH presenting more data, from the NIH, from the Office of Research on Women's Health, or the Institute of Research on Women's Health, which I love how that sounds. And fundraising with the community, because when a community is interested, it tends to support things economically. We want to continue and accelerate building the workforce of women and men, MD and PhD scientists who will do the critical research on the health of women and sex differences. We need this workforce. If we don't have the workforce, we won't have the work, and it's critical. Next slide. So NIH provides hope and promise for biomedical progress for the health of women. We want NIH to lead the way in funding women's health research and growing the workforce needs so that we can meet the need that there is. The NIH has enormous power to mobilize research efforts on behalf of the health of women and to affect change. Scientists need to work within the NIH as well as across the country to do the research, however complex, because the research is going to lead to the preventions, treatments, and cures we need. And potentially, we don't have sex-specific guidelines, but we need them in a lot of cases. Next slide, last slide. In summary, chronic debilitating diseases are very common and contribute greatly to poor morbidity, mortality, function, and quality of life in women. These diseases remain understudied. There is an incredible need for greater research focuses on these diseases, and NIH can lead the way. Thank you very much.